When you talk about guns and the media, I'm always amazed at the coverage or weird coverage we get in the media. And I was thinking about who can we get on to talk about what goes on with the media and as it relates to guns, but also just generally speaking, because I'm an old J school guy and I look at what's going on in journalism these days and it drives me crazy. So I thought, who better to do that than John Stossel, the guy who's been like popping the balloons of pomposity and the craziness in the media for many, many years. John Stossel, thank you for being here, man.
Nice to be here.
All right, so let me ask you, you have written about and covered the media for many, many years. You've also done things on gun control and how one of the things that you have done traditionally that I really appreciated is basically the whole deal of everybody thinks this, whatever that this is, but this is actually not true and this is the other thing. What got you started in wanting to kind of peel things back and look at what's really going on?
Well, outside of guns, what got me started was I was a consumer reporter and I was pointing out how business cheats people. And my instinct as a liberal young reporter was that government should fix that. But I stayed on the beat and I watched how the government solutions made things more complicated and expensive, but didn't fix any of the problems. They just added hurdles. So I started questioning a lot of what the mainstream media and my own liberal assumptions were. And I started reading the conservative press, but I wasn't thrilled with them because they seemed to want to go to war everywhere, right, including in people's bedrooms. And I eventually discovered Reason magazine and, I guess I'm a libertarian, whatever that is. I want limited government. And the gun issue came up because I was at 2020 in New York City. And if you think about it, most of the reporters in the media are on the East Coast. And we grow up in a world where, of course, guns are a problem and need more regulation. My producer at the time, though, was Maxim Lott, son of John Lott.
Oh, wow, no kidding.
Eventually introduced me to, more guns, less crime. Right? It's a whole different concept, and it was quite the head shifter. And I remember confronting Al Sharpton about what would it be like if anybody could buy a gun? It would be chaos. There'd be blood on the street. And I said, well, that's the law in most places outside New York City.
Right.
And he had no idea.
Okay, that's an interesting point. I ran into the same thing. I was doing an interview some years ago with MSNBC, and they came down and did a whole piece. I was talking to the producer from Manhattan, as you might expect, and he said, well, I don't know anybody who owns guns. And I said, well, I don't know anybody who doesn't own guns. And I said, but here's the thing. I'll guarantee you that if you were to actually ask the people you know in New York, a lot of the people you know own guns, but they don't feel free to talk about it. He called me 2 weeks later. He says, Tom, it's unbelievable. Half the people I know own guns, but I never knew that.
I don't believe half the people I know own guns in my ultra-leftist world. And they're giving me grief about everything. That's one thing I don't even bother to fight about.
No. I understand.
I got other fish to fry.
Well, exactly. So, all right. So let me ask you this. You're right there in the heart of, actually the center of media for the world, for the whole planet in New York. What is it about the media that drives the agenda? Is it a groupthink thing? Is it peer pressure? I mean, we see the agendas there, but when those of us who are not there, we wonder, how does that come about?
I'm not clear, and I ought to be after these years of making videos. I am still making them, by the way. Every Tuesday we release a new 5-minute or so video on Stossel TV. It's groupthink, and I mean, you think about the world, the people who, and why this is, I don't know, but the people who write for a living or just spend a lot of time writing tend to lean left. Artists tend to lean left. Mm-hmm. The people who build things tend to lean right. I'm not sure why that is, some kind of brain difference, but without question, the carpenters, the home builders, some of it's that they run up against all the stupid regulations and that wakes them up to the problem. While If you're a school teacher, you're just collecting a salary all the time, and you have no idea how intrusive government regulations are.
Well,
But there definitely is a split, and the people who write lean left, and this is why AI is a little dangerous. I love ChatGPT. I use it every day. But it pulls stuff from the internet, and the internet is people who write, and that goes left.
no, that's an excellent point. Where is it getting its information in the first place? And that information has already been filtered as it gets poured into Chat GPT and AI. That's a really interesting observation. I hadn't thought about it that way. And, to your point about people who are, well, maybe dependent upon or expect the government to take care of things, we see the same thing in the gun world. It's like, okay, I've studied this. Actually, the CDC studied it. They said they couldn't find any gun control law in the U.S. that had ever reduced crime. And of course, we look at that and go, yeah, well, that's because criminals break the law. It seems simple to me, but I don't know why that's not obvious everywhere.
I would bet you could study every law that was supposed to do X, Y, or Z. And did they accomplish their goal? I would doubt it, but they rarely ask those questions. Mostly they just say, oh, I don't like this. There ought to be a law. And they pass more laws. And no group of school kids ever goes to the state capitol and asks the state legislator, what laws have you repealed while you've been in power? No, it's all about what laws did you get passed?
It's funny. I've always said, I want to ask every politician, name me the first 5 laws that you would repeal. And everybody kind of looks at me like, well, what are you talking about? I said, well, no, because the laws you pass actually don't do what you think they're going to be doing. And then after they don't work, then your response is, well, we just didn't go far enough. We need more restrictive laws than we already have.
Over and over and over. It's like arterial sclerosis of laws. And think about how well Germany and Japan did after World War II. They were the boom economies in the 60s. And some of it's because they're Germans and Japanese people, but I think a lot of it is that we bombed them to smithereens and they had to start over without all their old guilds and union rules,
right?
Stupid stuff that accumulate over time.
All right. So first of all, let's tell people where they can see what you're doing these days. Because, I know they know you from ABC and all the things you've done. You've had this incredible career, but you're still putting out the information. You're still trying to puncture pomposity wherever you can find it.
In short, fun nuggets, johnstossel.com gets you there, but you could just Google Stossel TV and you'll get there too.
Sounds good. John Stossel, thank you for your time. I appreciate it. And it's always enlightening to take a look at things from a little different perspective. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Tom.